7 things I'd check before buying any used Jeep Wrangler. A used Jeep Wrangler can be one of the best 4x4s you'll ever own, or a $10,000 mistake hiding in plain sight. Frame rot, engine problems, transmission failures, and death wobble can all be lurking underneath a Jeep that looks perfectly clean. So before you hand over the cash, check these 7 things, because missing just one could cost you thousands. Number 7 starts with a leak Jeep sells its own fix for. That seal kit exists for a reason. Every Wrangler with a hardtop leaks eventually, because it's a truck built to have its roof taken off. Those freedom panels above the driver and passenger sit on rubber seals, and those seals dry out fast in the sun. Once they dry, water finds a way through, and on a rainy day, it drips right onto your knee. Now the fix itself is dirt cheap. Mopar sells a foam seal kit for around approximately $100, and aftermarket brands go for even less. But here's the trap most buyers miss on the walkaround. If the Wrangler you're eyeing already has seal kits on it, that means it leaked before. And a Jeep that leaked before is a Jeep that will leak again, the second those seals age out. So pull the carpet back in the front footwell before you sign anything. Look for water stains, sniff for mildew, and press the padding for damp spots. A wet carpet today is a rusted floor pan next year, and floor pans on a Wrangler are not cheap to weld in. Now ask yourself a fair question. Why is this seller actually selling the truck? A Wrangler owner who loved his rig doesn't dump it for a Camry. He sells the day something breaks, when he doesn't want to pay to fix it. So those leaks are just the first clue you spot on the lot. While you're under there, check the hardtop bolts and the hinges too. Rust at the hinges means the top's been sitting on the grass all summer, and rust on the bolts means it's coming off in your driveway with a wrench and a lot of cursing. All of that is fixable, of course, but it tells you exactly how the last owner treated this Jeep. That's the cheapest problem on the whole list, but that leak is spare change next to what a Wrangler owner pays for the next check. Number 6 brings a gearbox that drops your Jeep into limp mode. Now the Wrangler has worn a lot of gearboxes over the years, and they age at very different rates. That old 4-speed 4.2RLE is tough, just a little weak. The 5-speed W5A580 in the JK generation lasts forever, as long as you keep the fluid fresh. But then there's the 8-speed 8-horsepower in the 2018 and newer JL, and this one has moods. That 8-speed is smart, expensive, and picky about how it's driven. Owners on the JL Wrangler forums report harsh 3 to 4 shifts, a delayed engagement out of park, and a torque converter clutch shutter at a light cruise. Some Jeeps even drop into limp mode with no clear reason. A TCM software flash fixes most of it, but not always, and only if the seller actually took it in. So what's the real trap here? Jeep marketed the fluid in that 8-speed as lifetime fluid. ZF, the company that actually built the box, disagrees hard. Their engineers say change it around 60,000 miles, sooner if you tow anything heavy. But most owners never touch it, because nobody at the dealer ever told them they had to. On the test drive, feel for a shudder at 40 to 70 miles per hour on a light throttle. Then feel for a hard bang when you slide it from park into drive. Now pop the dipstick, if the Jeep even has one, and look at the fluid on the tip. Dark or burned is a walk away, every single time. Ask the seller flat out if the TCM was ever reflashed at the dealer. Most of these issues have a free software fix from Chrysler, but sellers rarely bother. So they're passing the ticking clock straight to you, wrapped in a smile. Still, that gearbox is nothing next to what's about to fail on the Pentastar's top end. Quick pause. If you're buying a Wrangler you actually want to keep for the long haul, I put together the 500,000-mile Jeep blueprint. It covers the maintenance, common problems, and preventative fixes that can save you thousands over the life of your Jeep. You'll find the full guide linked in the description below. Number 5 is a cylinder head nobody at the dealer will mention. The 3.6-liter Pentastar V6 is the most common Wrangler engine on the used market. And on the 2011 to 2013 build years, that left cylinder head has a real defect nobody at the dealer wants to bring up. So here's what actually goes wrong. The valve seat drops out of the head. Then the exhaust valve smashes into the piston at speed, and cylinder number 2 starts ticking like a metronome on every cold start. Now here's the question the seller will dodge. Did Jeep ever cover this thing? Chrysler knew about the defect for years, so they quietly extended the warranty on that left head to cover a lot of owners for free. The coverage depends on your VIN, though, so it's not the same for every owner who calls in. A class action called Melson vs. FCA was filed in 2020, and a follow-up called Mogane covered the later build years and the rocker tick complaints. There's actually a second Pentastar problem, one that hits every year from 2011 onward. That oil filter housing on the engine is made of cheap plastic, which warps under real engine heat. So it cracks over time, and it leaks oil down the back of the block. Mechanics who don't know Jeeps chase it as a rear main seal leak, a $2,000 mistake in labor. The real fix is a Dorman aluminum housing for about $200 in parts, plus a few hours of wrench time. So on the test drive, listen for a tick on the driver's side of the engine when it's cold. Get a scan tool on it, and look for a code P0302, which means a cylinder 2 misfire. Then pop the hood and look for oil pooling in the valley behind the intake. So a Pentastar with both problems ignored is a $5,000 engine job, and you really don't want to be the next owner. If you're the kind of buyer who'd rather hear a cold Pentastar tick than trust a dealer's smile, subscribe, because we crawl through the exact stuff sellers pray you'll ignore. Number 4 is a brain under the hood that stalls the whole Jeep. Buried under the hood of every Wrangler from 2007 to 2013 sits a black box called the TIPM. That stands for Totally Integrated Power Module, and when it fails, your Jeep gets weird in a hurry. What does weird actually mean here? The fuel pump keeps running with the key out of the ignition. Now the horn honks at 3 a.m. in your own driveway, and the wipers turn on by themselves in the sun. Or the Jeep won't start at all, or it fires up once and stalls 20 seconds later. Every symptom points back at the same failed relay inside the same failed module. Chrysler got sued over the same defect and lost. The case was Velasco versus Chrysler Group, and in 2016, a federal judge in California approved the settlement. It covered 2011 to 2013 Grand Cherokees and Dodge Durangos, not Wranglers directly. But it's the exact same TIPM defect, and Wrangler owners have been chasing the same ghost for years. Grand Cherokee owners got a free relay repair, a 7-year warranty extension on that fix, and money back if they'd already paid for a full module swap. A replacement TIPM runs around $1,100 to $1,200, plus a few hours of labor on top. So on any 2007 through 2013 Wrangler, ask the seller straight up if the TIPM has ever been swapped. Ask for the paperwork and take a picture of it too. Then turn the key off and stand next to the fuel tank in the parking lot and just listen for a minute. If you hear the pump humming with the key out, walk from that Jeep right there. Walking away from that Wrangler only saves your wallet if you know what's dying next on the drivetrain. Number 3 comes down to axles that snap and sway bars that lie. Every Wrangler runs a solid front axle, and that solid axle is the reason the Jeep goes places nothing else can. But solid axles have moving parts, and moving parts wear out. Which parts fail first on the front end? The U-joints wear out early, and the ball joints wear right behind them. Then the unit bearings wear on top, and on a lifted Wrangler running 35-inch tires, all of that wears twice as fast. Now if it's a base sport model, check the rear axle first. Grab the diff cover and look at the fill plug on it. A square metal plug means a Dana 44, and that's the strong axle you want under you. But a plastic plug means a Dana 35. Off-roaders have been snapping those shafts for decades. If it's a Rubicon, both axles are Dana 44s, which is great. But the Rubicon has its own headache called the electronic sway bar disconnect. There's a class action from 2020 called Flores versus FCA. It alleges the disconnect sits in a housing that lets water in over time. Once water gets in, the bar either won't disconnect off-road or won't reconnect on the highway. So you end up driving 60 miles per hour with a Wrangler that has no front sway bar and no clue it's missing one. On any Wrangler, grab a front tire at 3 and 9 o'clock and try to wiggle it side to side. Any real movement there means bad ball joints. Then grab the same tire top and bottom. That kind of movement means a bad wheel bearing. And on a Rubicon, push the sway bar button on the dash and confirm you hear an actual click both ways. Because the whole story on that Wrangler changes when you see what's dying out of sight underneath. Number 2 is frame rot that eats your Jeep from the inside. This one is a JK generation killer, and it covers the 2007 to 2018 Wrangler. The frames on those Jeeps rust from the inside out, and it happens where nobody bothers to look. Why does it happen? Each frame is a boxed steel tube with a few tiny drain holes. Those drain holes plug up with mud and salt and road grime over the years. Water gets in through the holes, and it sits there for months. Once it sits, rust starts eating the steel from the inside where you can't see it. The worst spots are the rear crossmember, the rear control arm mounts, and the coil spring buckets. By the time rust shows on the outside of the frame, the metal underneath is already paper thin. Shop bills for this stuff get scary fast. Cutting out rusted rear sections and welding in fresh steel runs $2,100 to $2,500 every time. A rear crossmember from Rustbuster runs about $250 in parts alone. And when the whole frame is honeycombed with rot, you're looking at a body-off frame replacement that runs into 5 figures on a Jeep that might only be worth $12,000. So bring a small pointed hammer, a flat screwdriver, or a magnet on a stick. Now tap the frame near the rear axle. Tap the control arm mounts, and tap that rear crossmember hard. Solid metal rings back at you, but rotted metal thuds like a dead branch. And if you can push a screwdriver tip clean through the frame anywhere, that Jeep isn't a Jeep anymore. It's an expensive project waiting for a fool to buy. While you're under there, look for bent skid plates, cracked welds near the shock mounts, and fresh undercoat spray hiding something the seller doesn't want you to see. The guy who painted the frame flat black last weekend didn't do it for love of the truck. He did it to sell you a rotted Jeep for full asking price. And that $30 million courtroom bill came from exactly what you're about to see next. Number 1 is the wobble that scared Jeep into a settlement. So the name is Death Wobble. Nobody in Jeep's marketing came up with it, and Jeep hates that you know it. But every solid axle Wrangler owner knows exactly what it is, because it happens on their trucks at real highway speed. You hit a bump around 60 miles per hour. Now the front end starts shaking so hard you can't see the road. The steering wheel jerks left and right on its own. The whole truck rattles like it's about to shake itself apart, and the only way to stop it is to slow down until the shaking fades out. So what actually starts it? One worn part sets off a harmonic through the whole front end. A loose track bar can kick it off. So can a worn tie rod. A tired ball joint or a soft steering damper joins the party right after. FCA's own Chief Technical Compliance Officer, Mark Chernoby, called the whole thing a mix of design and factory build. That was the closest they ever came to an apology in public. Now here's what puts this at the top of the list. A class action called Reynolds versus FCA covered about 1.1 million 2018 to 2020 Wranglers and 2020 Gladiators. A federal judge in Michigan gave it final approval in June 2023. FCA agreed to a warranty extension on the front steering damper of 8 years or 90,000 miles, refunds for owners who'd already paid, and around $30 million in total benefits. But here's the part your dealer will never say out loud. That steering damper doesn't cure death wobble. It only masks the shake at low speed. The real fix is finding the actual worn part and replacing it, and that costs real money in a shop. So if the seller says he replaced the damper and the wobble stopped, he didn't fix a thing. He hid it long enough to hand you the keys. On your test drive, get the Jeep up to highway speed on rough pavement and hit a seam or a pothole on purpose. If you feel even a tremor in that wheel, the Jeep has told you exactly what it is. So take the hint from that Wrangler and walk away from the deal. So, which of these 7 checks would be the biggest deal breaker for you when buying a used Wrangler? Let me know in the comments. And if this video helped you avoid an expensive mistake, hit like and subscribe. Then, click the video on your screen right now for more Jeep tips every owner should know. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.